So what's going on?
Well, I've been hearing a lot of crazy things out there these days, Like I have
What?
some sources here and there, but
Yeah.
sources in the fish community have sources who have sources. It's like the adult game of broken telephone that we experience constantly, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but you're my source.
okay, good. And and who are you the source for? Are there a few out there that you're feeding my info to?
No one
I hope
asks me
I
these
hope
kind
so.
of questions.
Well,
What are you hearing?
what I mean, well, I've heard that there is a 40th anniversary, special situation, and there's two-pronged, two rumors that are floating around, and the latest that I've heard from a relatively, you know,
Tight source.
good source. I mean, I'd say he's like in
It's a
the
he.
six, it's yeah, it. He's in like the 60 to 70% um range of predictability, or his sources, his spreading of rumors are usually within the realm of actually happening. So,
Ooh, the anticipation's killing me.
all right, well, here's what he said at our last meeting of the minds, that the 40th anniversary predictions, or 40th anniversary situation, is going to be a festival, but
Ooh.
but it's not going to be a festival this summer, right? Because they've
Right.
already
Yeah.
announced their summer tour. Like, nothing's happening. They can't put a
When do
in it.
when do we think like what is the 40th anniversary? What are we calling the 40th anniversary?
Like, what? I mean, they celebrated the 30th anniversary at New Year's, right, in 2013, when they did the Gem Truck set, and they had like a montage on the big screen, and they had
Right, so
uh
it's like now. It's any time in the next 12 months.
it's 2023. It's going to happen
Right.
this year. Any sort of like recognition of their 40th anniversary. And what I
Yeah.
heard, and I know this is a very far-fetched rumor, but what I heard was that it is happening in, drumroll please,
Why?
Indio.
No
Because
way. You're not serious. You've been laying the foundation for this for the last 4 weeks and haven't
I
told us?
for the last
You've been
14
secretly seeding
years.
this out in the podcast and just holding on this information?
No, I just heard about it this week.
Oh
This
my God.
week.
Wait. So you think that they might celebrate their 40th in India?
That's what my source is telling me.
Whispers
Because,
have it.
okay, so the groundwork is being laid, right? This heavy metal festival that was just announced in
Yeah.
Indio, that's taking place in
Yeah.
September,
Yeah.
okay? Now they're basically saying that, like, kind of what they do in Mexico, right? Where they have like a stage set up, and they like all come in and
They're going
play.
to piggyback off of that.
They're going to piggyback off of that. And maybe I'm wrong, because that one's
Okay.
happening when, late September, I think it's happening,
Yeah.
or
Something
early
like that.
October. Well, what this source is saying is that, Halloween is going to be in Indio again, where they can have a festival outdoors in the fall, right? It's worked before.
Amazing.
And then the second part of this rumor that I've heard from multiple sources
Mm.
is that New Year's is going to take place at the Sphere, the new
In Vegas.
MSG Sphere in Vegas, right? They're done with.
Whoa.
I mean, it's lining up. There have been rumors about them wanting to play here. I think the sound system that they've been put into this place is like something like over nearly 200,000 speakers in this building. Um, and I also saw a firsthand that there is a rehearsal space in Burbank of California, for the Sphere. They have a Sphere built for specifically for rehearsal, and I'll keep my eye on the booking schedule for that rehearsal space. You never know; Kuroda will be in there first. Um,
Whoa.
but rumors are rumors. I'm not putting too much, you know, belief into it, because there still is that 40 to 30 to 40%, where it's just like I feel like my source is also getting fed certain things sometimes to divert what the reality actually is.
Right, because your source is close enough that they can also be used to spread a little misinformation, right? Is that what you're saying? A little
Totally,
sleight of hand?
totally. Where they're like, oh, everybody's getting all psyched up and reserving Airbnbs in one place, and then they're like, nope,
Right.
sorry, it's gonna be over here. I feel like that's
I mean,
part of
I
like,
know the short list of your sources, and I also think I know who this source is. I understand what you're saying, but these people are barely arm's length. In fact, I don't even know what the right description is. I mean, yeah, you're right. They have the inside track,
I
so
mean,
this could be true.
I think that the Indio thing is much further, more
In
far
the
fetched
sphere.
than the sphere. But
Oh,
I
more
think
far
that this,
fetched than the sphere.
yes, I think that
Ooh,
for
okay.
their 40th anniversary, which they celebrated on New Year's of 2013, their 30th,
Right.
um, the chances of them doing it in Vegas as opposed to uh, New York seems like a possibility. Like, let's set the precedent for the next 10 years and let's do New Year's in Vegas, where, like, it's maybe a little bit more central. There's a lot more accommodation. It's
People
like,
can
I
fly
mean,
in. Yeah, it's very accessible. I mean, it's literally that's its entire job. The whole city exists to get people there by airplane and put them in a hotel that fits their
their budget.
vibe for the weekend. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
Vegas is the amusement park for adults, and it just happens to be,
I
you
guess
know,
my only input on the sphere is that A, I know that it's wrapping up, but I have no idea how close it actually is. B, I know they've like U2 and there was all these kind of headliners that they were trying to get in there to open it and stuff. I
I'm
don't
pretty sure
recall what that
U
schedule
two is
is.
locked in. I'm
Right,
pretty
as
sure
the first, right? Like
as
they're
the
gonna
first,
debut
yeah,
in the sphere.
in like September or October. I'm pretty sure it's
Right. No,
locked
it's
in.
entirely plausible. But here's the thing about Indio that I want. I mean, this is just me wanting it to be true. It works. Number one, Mike was here, okay, for random reason, just to go to the Integratron out there in, Joshua Tree. I don't know,
Hmm.
right? Number one.
Maybe.
Number two, you can't have a festival anywhere else in the fall that is anywhere except here or Hawaii, right? I mean, you just can't. And they know how perfect it worked last time. They're not doing a festival in upstate New York or Maine this summer. That would have well been announced, right? So
I
we
mean,
know
they
it's
can't go back
if
to
there's a
Watkins Glen
festival, it's not happening. Right, exactly. So if there's
because
a
they.
festival, it's not happening in the normal spaces, right? If
Mhm.
there's a festival, it's happening 6 months from now, which is in the fall. And if that's true, from a weather perspective, there's really only a couple places they can do it. They're not, they're not bringing us down Alligator Alley again, you
No,
know.
not that time of year because that's hurricane season.
Right, but rolling into India where there literally are stages and all the infrastructure from decades of Coachellas and other things already kind of there, and then obviously the old Cella, and now we got the heavy metal Cella. Like it's not unfathomable at all. The
It's not.
weather's perfect. It's the hottest time of the year is September, October here, right? It's the
Yeah,
nicest time of the year, and the infrastructure's here, and so it's got legs.
I
This
think
rumor's
so.
got some legs.
I hope so. I
Wow.
hope so. I mean, it's never happening in Watkins Glen again because of insurance, right? What happened to them last time, the insurance would never cover it because of what could potentially happen again, right?
Yeah, because it was a full closure last time, right? It
Yeah,
was like
full
full disaster.
cancellation.
Yeah, I
So,
mean that would have been a fortune.
I mean, if it happens in Indio, there will probably be a lot of you know, East Coast bitterness thrown about. But if it's anything like it was last time, anybody who manages to make their way,
Right. It's gonna be great.
it's gonna be a fraction of the cost it would be to go to Mexico, right?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, don't forget, this is a band that asks people to go to Mexico for a weekend and costs like $6,000, right? So, I
At,
mean,
yeah,
they're not against, they're no longer saying like, what's the radius of one tank of gas in a VW bus, and that's where we're gonna play. That's not the conversation anymore, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Interesting.
So
And
I guess
they've
we'll
done it
just wait and
before.
see.
And how much backlash was there really from Indio? I don't know. I mean, I wasn't that connected to it, but like people had a great time. It's not like it lives on in infamy as being like the worst festival ever because it was too far away. People had a great time.
It was the best if you made it.
That that's what I'm saying. So it's like it's not like it's not like it was sour last time and they're gonna try and make it sweet this time. It was kind of sweet last time, and
And do you
yeah,
remember
it's a long way.
how they built up to it on their website with like the map of the US and like states you kept like floating away via like hot air balloons until
No,
they no, you don't remember that? Oh, it was like so innovative on their website. They had a map of the US and like every day or two a different state would like disappear until they narrowed it down to just like one or two, and then California was the last one standing. And they also had like the different albums that they would play or could potentially be played, um,
right.
that would like disappear, and then like the different campgrounds had names of different albums, just like throwing people in different directions, which was such a nice innovative way to build up to the excitement of what they did in Indio.
Yeah,
So
that's
hopefully,
cool. I've touched on it before, but that 3.0, I mean, early 3.0, I wasn't super connected to the community. I wasn't watching the goings on. I think I found out about Indio, I think from you, who said, come, you know? And I think I said, I don't have tickets. And you said, we'll figure it out. So I think that was the extent of the entirety of the research because getting from Los Angeles to Palm Springs wasn't exactly difficult. So I know nothing about the website or anything.
hmm,
It was kind of last minute. It was kind of a very unplanned for me.
yeah. Well, it all worked out in the end.
It sure did.
Yeah. So
Wow, if
hopefully
they
that
do
happens
that
again this
again
year.
for a 40th, can you? This will be between the Hollywood Bowl and if that happens, and even Vegas sounds cool too. I'm not discounting that at all. But like, wow, would we be spoiled? I mean, this is just gonna be the most spoiled West Coast has ever been in a year. I
I
feel
know,
like.
and that's the only thing that really has me hesitating on whether this is actually going to happen, because like they're playing this spring tour on the West Coast, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then, they're going back and they're doing their normal East Coast love
Yeah,
summer tour, right? Giving them
yeah.
all the hits. If you live in New England, you're within a couple hundred miles of 10 shows, maybe more.
Hmm.
And but like, are they going to come back to the West Coast? I mean, if anything, they
How
would
many
come back
people
to
go to the
Vegas.
Mexico shows?
Just a couple thousand. I think it's like maybe 3 or 4 thousand, maybe, or maybe
So
five.
they're small.
Yeah, they're small. They're not.
Weird.
It's not like a festival crowd. It's not even like an arena crowd. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's like 7,000. I don't know.
And how big was India though? I mean, it wasn't a big in terms of a numbers thing, right? It wasn't huge for them,
I
was it?
think it was. I think it was their lowest selling,
Yeah,
you know, um,
yeah.
festival, and that's why they haven't come back, because they only sold like 40,000 tickets, maybe less.
Yeah, but people would want to do for I mean, here's the thing, this is a reason, right? Like, if people who are serious aren't gonna wanna miss the 40th, right? So it kinda obligates people to make that move no matter where it is, right?
Especially for Halloween, you know?
Right. I know, it's a Halloween show, it's their 40th, everyone's like, "Oh, I gotta go," you know?
And I
Look,
feel
flying
like
to Los Angeles and flying to Palm Springs, to be very honest with you, is not all that different than flying to Vegas. Yeah, I mean,
no,
maybe a bit, but, like, it's super accessible,
Palm Springs has
and
a lot
staying in the
more.
desert is not expensive. There's
Yeah,
so many Airbnbs as far as the eye can see,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Um,
And I'm sure, there'll be those packages that people can purchase where they get accommodations and transportation and all these
well, there's
things.
huge hotels here too. Yeah, there's big, like there's big, chain hotels with pools and water slides and stuff too that they can put people in.
La
Yeah, I mean,
Quinta.
it's eminently accessible. It's not, other than the distance, but the distance by miles doesn't necessarily mean like, you know, any. any more or less like financially feasible,
No, because there's
realistically.
a ton of flights that go into Palm Springs Airport these days,
That's what I
right?
mean. Yeah. Or
Like
yeah,
tons.
you fly into LA and drive, or you fly into Palm Springs
Like
Airport, which
since
is basically all day.
2009, since 2009, it's probably expanded exponentially the amount of flights that are going into Palm Springs every day.
I mean, yeah, it's and the airport's busy. I'm here right now. I'm watching the planes. They're coming and they're going, you know?
And I did see a TikTok the other day that suggested that the Palm Springs Airport is the nicest in the entire country because it's all outdoors.
It's been a long time since I've flown into Palm Springs. Um, but I have, and I've picked people up in the airport more recently, I guess. And it is it's really nice. It's a small airport, right? Um, but it's nice. You know how flying out of Burbank's really accessible, right? You just
Mm,
kind of go in
mhm.
and out. Same kind of vibe, right? Small airport, but it's outside and there's palm trees and it's warm. You get off that plane, you feel like it's nice. It's a good feeling. Whereas you get off a plane at LAX and it's just like a battle. It's a battle until you're 20 minutes outside the airport. You're just in battle mode.
And you know what? The other great thing about doing it out in Palm Springs is that like it will in a similar way that Mexico does, it kind of like filters a little bit of the
Aggro.
aggro
Yeah.
kind, like not jaded vet, but like, you know, the people who are coming just for
The
the
party.
the party and like totally, like the crowd will be very different than the crowd that let's say is like at the Man this summer. Like a lot of people are hitting that show for to make a buck or
Hmm.
to
Yeah,
you know
I get
not
it.
groove safe.
Yeah, I mean that's as I get older, and you can obviously still have fun at a show. That's fun can still be had. But yeah, I mean the underbelly of that, like
Fewer
when you get
chads.
that I'm just here for the party vibe, take for me detracts from the show, right? I like when we're here for the music and and we're governing ourselves around that. Like that's more fun. So
Yeah. And
I'm into
like
that.
there is a clear definition, in my opinion, from my experience. And I don't know who's written an essay on this or done a peer reviewed study,
Mm,
but the what makes up the jam band scene on the West Coast as opposed to the jam band scene on the East Coast. Just like, the vibe of the people on the East Coast is kind of different than the vibe on the West Coast. And this is not detracting. I have many incredible good friends who live on the East Coast who I love very much. I just find that the ratio of people I see at shows on the East Coast are a little bit more aggro than what I see on the West Coast. You know, West
I've
Coast, I go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I've lived, both places, having spent a lot of years on the East Coast, and the West Coast is a completely different vibe. The energy level is much lower. The chill factor is much higher. The aggravation kind of propensity to be aggro is almost zero. So definitely works for me. That's not a criticism at all of the East Coast. It's just that there is a different in the energy in the air, especially at
Hmm.
a place like a show, where again
Yeah.
people are having a good time and letting loose. Like I think of like some of the some of the wildest. Like if I think of Mansfield, and I think of a Allman Brothers show at Mansfield, you know, I have some memories of like it can get pretty raucous. I mean that used to be a raucous crowd anyway. A lot of that vibe. Yeah. So I do know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I think people, if they're going to make the trek out here, they're going to be in the good vibe zone, and they're going to
Because
and
I'm
like we've said, Indio's the place for
like, in
good
my
vibes.
opinion, and this is again just like a guesstimate, like I'd say that most of the people who are going to see fish on the West Coast are not necessarily people who are like going to see 5 shows in 8 days. You know, it's mostly people who are like coming to check it out and like have been to
Hmm.
like a few shows and like are into it, but they're more like deadheads.
Yeah, they're not deep on a run. They're not on the back end of like a 2 week stretch.
Exactly. Whereas like on the East Coast, you're getting a lot of repeat customers, tour rats who are making their way through on the Jersey Turnpike and hitting Cracker Barrel and
Mm.
living the dream, so to speak.
I've eaten at many a Cracker Barrel on tour.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a tour staple, right? What's the
It's
tour
right there
staple
off
on
the
the
highway.
West Coast? It's
Yeah.
like In and Out. In and Out is your tour staple on the West Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I mean,
guess.
that's way fucking better in my opinion. That's
It
invoking a
is
lot more joy.
it is delicious. Wow. So you just came in here with this rumor roundup of 40th anniversary. Wow. This
Yeah,
is big.
I mean, who knows what'll happen? Could be nothing. Could be everything. Could
Wow.
be another run at MSG. I mean, shit, they're only playing 7 shows at MSG this summer. They're going to have to go back for at least 4 more.
Hmm. Well, lots to find out. I wonder when you think they'll be dropping some of these details. Um, like, do we have to wait till the summer, you think? You have to wait till after? No, I'm not going to wait till after
I don't,
tour. Maybe after this little spring run, they're going to let us know. I don't know.
maybe. I don't know. I think it depends on like how ticket sales are going on summer tour before they announce what's going to happen in the fall. Like traditionally, I don't know, when do they normally announce their fall plans? It's usually late summer, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, they got you got to put out, when they announced. I mean, festivals they usually put out. I feel like 4 to 6 months before. You know. Uh,
So 4 months before
wow,
October, that's like,
wow,
beginning of
yeah,
summer.
yeah, you're right. Wow. Okay. Well, now I'm excited.
Me
I
too.
had all this. I had all this other material, that I wanted to ask Jack, and
Well, to ask me. Let me know. We still got a minute or two. We touch on
well, now I feel like I'm on the spot. I'm not even sure the material was all that good.
it.
Have you been listening to any island tour?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm always listening to the island tour.
Yeah.
It's
What's your
really
favorite day?
in my heavy rotation. Good question. It's it's probably 4-4. Like probably
What
to,
for
you know,
today?
well, yes, we are recording this on 4-4.
Oh, giveaway. Wait, that's gonna ruin the magic. Yeah.
Well,
Okay. 4-4. Yeah.
I'd say
Got
four
it.
four is my favorite. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm actually actively trying to
Trying to pick
establish a favorite. I'm working my way through it right now, trying to go, okay, what happened in order, and figure it out. What do you make of that twist from the second? There's a lot of ink has been spilled on that twist. You know what I'm talking about or no?
tell me.
No, I don't really know. I haven't dived deep into it, but people have been talking about this twist, and how it sort of was illuminating of the transition, a transition from the cow funk. Um,
Into the new age.
yeah, apparently. I gave it a listen yesterday, but not a critical listen. There was, it was a car listen with some folks in the car. So I didn't have it crank. I just had it kind of simmering. So I can't tell you in detail what happened. But yeah, I think some of the stuff I was reading was that people seem to be talking about how that was sort of a transformative jam, or like paved the way, or was a little illustrative of what was to come in terms of a change and dynamic and direction and stuff like that.
It's very
I
possible.
wonder if maybe it was the you enjoy my data account on Instagram. You know that one?
hmm Yeah, of course. I like that
He's
guy.
so good. Yeah, that guy is a professional. Um, his content is hilarious and really considered. Puts out like he cuts in a lot of good recommendations. Very thoughtful. That guy needs a shout out. I don't know what his name is, but he's one to follow for sure. Um,
I mean, it's hard not to like throw the most respect at 4-3 with that Roses, you know? There's been a lot of comparable, like this is one of the top jams of forever and ever, And it
okay.
is very good. It's long,
Hmm.
but it definitely has some like good funk in it, and it just maybe doesn't climax as well as some of the, Fish Destroys America 97, Fall 97, but it is like has all the pieces that I'm looking for in a sweet rock and roll jam, you know? I think
Yeah, I had
that's
that one.
maybe the jam that gets the most fun
I'm gonna
from
give
it.
that one another listen. I had it on in the car again too, but again, the volume level had to be at normal human level. You know how it is sometimes when you got fish on in the car. You can't
Yeah,
have it on at the level if you're
that you
solo.
that
It
you
might be
need.
10 times louder for
Yeah.
full jamming effect.
I mean,
Whereas when you got a car full of people, it's just like, let's simmer it down there and see what I can hear, you know?
yeah, I mean, I think 4-3 like definitely had like if you of all the shows that were attended live in person, probably had the most like bang for your buck, with
Mm.
like the crazy antelope and fishermen going wild, screaming Carini and
Yeah,
you
the
know,
antelope. Like, don't let Carini get you. If you're gonna come on stage, don't let
yeah,
Carini get you. That was
because some
cool.
dude jumped on stage, I guess, at some point.
Yeah, well, that there's always that famous clip. I guess I forgot that it was Island Tour, but yeah, there's that. That's basically like the one time because it almost never happens, right? But that guy jumped on stage and he was off in 2 seconds, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's like you're letting Fishman's like you can come on stage, but don't let Carini get you. And then they just kept doing the antelope. It was awesome. That
they
was
like
really fun.
they like teased Wipeout, I think, at some point that night.
I'm
Four
sure they
three.
did. I mean, they used to do that back in those. I mean, they were into that wipeout tease, 90, fall 97.
Well,
Or
yeah, they
no, or was the
yeah
Wipeout tease Worcester '98? Yeah, it was fall
yeah.
'97.
Worcester '98 is the Wipeout show, right?
Sure. Yeah, you're right. I'm all messed up.
But
I'm a
this
year
was
off.
that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
it's an
okay.
early Wipeout tease. It's just the teasing the Wipeout tease to come.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking about listening to that antelope, and this is a conversation that we're gonna have another day. We're not ready to have this
No,
conversation,
no. We need to
but
dive deep.
yeah, the it was about just like that is so fun. Like the guy jumps on stage, Karini chases him off, and they intermingle it into a song, and it's hilarious, and it's Fishman, and it's like, and it's part of this, and then they just like make it work all together like a band, completely impromptu, and then just pull the, just pull the, they just let that antelope rip afterwards, right? Like, because there's so much fun built up with the silliness. I mean, don't let Karini get you. You can jump on stage. Like, it does not like again. We've talked about this before. It's not harmonic. It doesn't. The band, they start stop it a little bit. They're kind of figuring out how it's going to work, but they're having so much fun with it. The crowd loves it, and then they finally, after teasing and teasing, right, drop it into the antelope, and you just know the place erupts, right?
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, and this conversation is for another day. We're not going there today. But as we analyze in our periphery, other musical opportunities that are happening outside of Fish, and keeping an open ear, watching the Twitter feed, listening to the shows of other bands. This playfulness and this joy and this interplay between musicians and audience, very, very unique to Fish. Very unique, you know. Um, it's something that as I'm trying to really keep an open mind and but have a sharp critical ear as I entertain other music in the scene. Um, it's something that I notice continues to separate Fish, right? And it's not that the lots of bands have really like excited crowds and fan bases, right? It's not that they're not excellent musicians, not that they don't have great, enjoyable songs, but there's a certain je ne sais quoi with Fish, I think, and that's a prime example. Is that Antelope, right? Where there's just something that doesn't even make sense on paper that just lights up a room, and that's cool.
That's the coolest part about this band, and we won't go deep into this, but if there are any jaded vets out there who want to get on this podcast and talk about Goose with us, we're ready.
Hey, I didn't say Goose.
But I did. And like, you know what? I don't hate Goose, but I never really hated Twiddle or Spafford. They're all just like, you know, in the same, like, yeah, they got that voice. Like, it just seems like any jam band that has a guy who's got a good voice is just like in that, like, they depend on that. So they don't have to throw down as hard as Fish does. Because, like, the guys in Fish, they sing their hearts out. They just aren't
Singers.
singers, but they go for it anyway. And they, I think, intuitively have made up for it musically with their instruments. Whereas, like, when you go to some of these other jam bands that have made some waves, they have a guy in there who has that voice, and it seems like they all kind of sound familiar or similar. They don't need to feel like they need to do these wild and crazy things that are going to give them, or maybe because Fish does these wild and crazy things, they can't. But like Humphreys McGee, they do wild and crazy things, but they're a
Yeah, I
different
just saw
sound.
him crowd surfing the other day.
Yeah, like Humphreys McGee, they do
Yeah,
their own thing,
yeah.
and a lot of it is musical. They do have some guys in their band that have decent voices, and I'm not saying that like Humphreys McGee is my favorite, but every time I've seen him, I've always enjoyed it. Maybe a little bit hard for me, a little, like heavy, um,
Mhm.
because like I'm more in like the Dead Fish, vibe of fun and playful,
Mhm.
and smooth. But like we're gonna do a separate episode on this, so I don't want to go too far about it
No,
into
we
it. And
can't.
I'd
And
like
I
I'd
didn't
like to
even
get
say the G word, but
well,
you know.
you know what? We can't hide from it forever. Okay.
Yeah,
And I'd
yeah,
love to
yeah,
have people on who love Goose, and I know a few people who do. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
there's
That's
just
that. See
like
that? Yeah, I'm trying
there's
to
an
keep an open mind.
examination there's an
Mhm.
examination, I think, of demographic and age group,
Mhm.
and
Totally.
what is pushing people towards them and what is pulling people away from them. And it would be great to have like a open conversation with a variety of folks
Mhm.
who are enjoying it and those who are pushing it away, because
Totally.
there's got
And
to
we'll
be,
do that one day.
yeah. And
And
on that note,
this is coming from two guys that have had great times at a lot of these concerts that we're naming of bands.
yes,
So
yes,
so this is not a closed-minded situation. It's just I just it's really something that sticks in my mind these days is what is it? What's missing for me? If there's something missing, right? If that's the premise for me that I'm working from, that there's a something missing, what is it? And I'm sort of curious. I'm trying to challenge myself. But anyway, that's a big conversation for me.
and what is working that
Yeah,
they're doing
totally.
that's different, that, as a lot of the bands I just mentioned were not able to do to get them over the hump of
Right.
playing in small venues and attracting new audience constantly.
Yeah, and the energy. Like what happened to String Cheese? I'm sure there's going to be some guy that tells you they're still playing because they are, but like, I mean, right? They were on a rocket
Yeah,
ship and then just sort of got to an altitude and stayed
yeah,
there, I guess,
yeah,
or
yeah.
came back down a bit. Who knows? Yeah, it's super interesting. But anyway, that's a deep, deep,
That's a
deep
deep
subject.
dive, but I think it's worth talking about.
Yeah,
So we'll set that up for you guys.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well,
All
listen,
right.
this has been so much more than I was expecting. These tasty little rumors. This is why we got you on the show. This is it.
Thanks.
Right there.
Yeah.
And we'll talk again soon. Okay?
All right. All right. I'm into it.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.